Just to warn y'all, this is going to be the worst video ever. You know, I've been thinking a lot about pain. Hell, I'm a nihilist. It's kind of a central preoccupation, actually. But I've been thinking a lot about pain. Have thought about a lot about pain. And one of my notions, one of the thoughts that I've had about it is that it's part of the human experience. You take a child, right, and how they react to things. You take yourself as an adult and how you react to things, and you compare it. If you look at a child who stubs his toe, they start crying. You know, they start crying, fussing, screaming, because to them this is the worst pain ever. And I've watched these kids, and you know, their high-pitched squeal and the screaming. It's just, oh God, is it ever so irritating. But the thing is, the instinct is to look at this kid, this child, and say, look, kid, it ain't that bad. It's not that bad. You need to chill out. But the thing is, it doesn't negate the fact that this kid very much is going through one of the worst pains that they have ever had to deal with in their life. You know? And it just grows from that point. You know, say he breaks his foot later on in life. At that point, stubbing his toe from then on isn't going to be such a big deal. And I think it's kind of the same with everybody. You know, I remember being a kid and stubbing my toe and screaming about it. And then one day I stepped on a pitchfork and it punctured my toe, and I had to get like 15 stitches in the goddamn thing. And while I was healing, I just remember looking at it, taking the bandaging off, and actually just kind of playing with it. You know, the worst of my pain had already been over. The thing was rusty. I had to get a tetanus shot. Horrible experience all around. So I'm taking this bandage off, and I just kind of start sticking my finger in this hole. And sure, it hurt, but it didn't hurt nearly as bad as when I stepped on the thing. You know, and at that point, you know, having stepped on that pitchfork was the worst pain ever. Sticking my finger in it was peanuts in comparison. And it seems like my whole life has been like that, you know. The emotional pain works the same way. I remember this cute little girl that I grew up with. She ended up moving away when I was around 5. And, you know, she was my childhood kindergartner love, and she ends up moving away, and it just tore me apart. I remember spending days in my room just crying over this, fearful that I'd never see her again, and I never did. But then, you know, time progresses and you meet other people. And that brings me to the first crush I ever had. You know, and when that didn't pan out, it was absolutely devastating. Devastating. Until I actually got a girlfriend. You know, and when that didn't pan out, it was worse than anything. It was worse than anything I'd ever felt in my life. And that's the way pain progresses. Pain progresses, you know. You hit these points to where something bad happens to you and you automatically compare it to other pains that you've felt. And in my personal opinion, if something doesn't equate to something else I felt before in my life, I try not to shout out. I try not to exemplify. I try not to what's the word? I try not to exalt the pain, you know. To me, pain is a theme, you know. It's almost like an entity that I don't want to just ingratiate capriciously. to me, pain is something very, very... Pain is very intimate, you know, and if you're not valuing it for what it really is, then you're not really valuing anything. That's just my opinion, though. That's how I view it. But I look out in the world, and I meet other adults, and we exchange stories, tales, you know, and it's just like, after a while, you start to see the world as just walking scar tissue, you know. Some people's scars are visible. Some people keep them concealed. You know, other people try to keep their wounds open for as long as possible, for the whole world to see, just so they can keep themselves in agony and revel in it. For whatever reasons, maybe they're masochistic, or maybe they like attention, but they try to keep these wounds open for as long as possible, and get hung up on it. You know, and my thinking is, those scars, those wounds, speak about you as a human being. Every scar has a story. Every last single one, and those stories make up the fabric of your personality and who you are. And personally, I love my scars. I don't particularly care for the stories behind most of them, but to me, a scar doesn't express manners in which you've been hurt as much as they express how you've healed.